The realism of a simulator is the most spoken about thing because each simulator simulates certain things better than others, and each fan thinks their sim is better than the other. But what I'm going to do today is not the same. What I'm going to do is compare AMS2's Formula Ultimate Gen 2 to the Red Bull RB19 and see how closely matched they are. So just a disclaimer, it's my setup and my lap time, so it won't be the top times of the sim, but I'll get into that later. But now, let's get into the telemetry. So, before we get into the telemetry, let me just talk to you what I did. If you watched my last video, I'll show you how you can get Motec telemetry data from AMS2, and that's exactly what I did with my lap. And what I did with the Verstappen's lap was I used Fast F1, linked down below, to get the data, and I have graphs here. So let's get into it. So here you can see the telemetry of my lap here and of Verstappen's lap here. So if we just make me a bit smaller, or if I go here a bit smaller, you will be able to see the telemetry. And what the lap I did was a 112.376. And Verstappen, he did a lap which was roughly a 12.2. So me and Verstappen here are quite closely matched. But let's go corner for corner to see how closely matched my setup and my driving actually is to Verstappen's. So if we start with going up into turn 1, you can see I reach a top speed of roughly 337 kph. Whilst Verstappen, he reaches maybe a bit higher than 340, so you can see 310, 320, or wait, if it's 250 then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. So he reaches roughly 330 kilometers per hour, which can show that my setup has more downforce. And then I go down to roughly 156k, he goes a bit higher. So you can see that he has more downforce. And then and you can check the throttle response is a bit the same. Since I go to 100, but he goes a bit shorter to 100, then goes down and then goes up again. And then you go through turn 3 here, and okay, so we can also check the gear and the RPM. So the RPM you can see is a bit less up and down than what it is here for AMS2. But I don't know what that is. If you know, comment it down below. But then the gear, you can see if this is 5th, you can see it goes down to 4th, it seems. Whilst I go down to 3rd, I believe, yes. So I go down 1 gear too much, if we think about Verstappen's lap. Then if we go here, you can see he reaches roughly 290 Ks, I reach roughly 300. So the main thing here, difference here is he has more downforce than me because he goes slower than me. I mean, you can think that generally. And then the throttle response is roughly the same. He goes quicker onto full throttle, which can mean that my setup has more oversteer than what he has. And you can see he goes down to 3rd again. I also go down to 3rd. Then we get to the corner 4, or what is it? No, 5, I believe it is. And here this is the slowest corner of the track. So you can see he goes down, I believe that's all the way down to... Yeah, so that's 8th, that's 7th, that's 6th, that's 5th, so 4th. If that's 3rd, then it goes down to 2nd. I also go down to 2nd here. And you can see this massive dip in RPM here. So it could probably mean that it goes very slowly and doesn't shift down. And you can see it also here. But my dip is quite a lot higher. But something I also noticed with AMS2 with the engine is that Verstappen's, his goes under 1200, maybe just goes roughly up there a little bit. Mine can easily go above 1200, so that's maybe something to think about. That maybe the AMS2 engine for F1 cars goes a lot higher. So then you can see here, I go a bit quicker than him, mostly generally at every spot. So I've tried to make it so it's roughly the same. The same, the same distance and minimum and maximum. And yeah, you can see here all the graphs and the speed. So from that, you can see that I actually am a bit maybe slower in the corners, but because I've lower downforce than him. But I'm a bit quicker through the top speed and through this on the straights and the faster sections. But obviously this is not me as a good driver. This is me as I would say I'm class me as an okay driver, on closer to the good. And I obviously have no idea talking about setups, and he has his whole team and he did a 12.2. Well, so if we go to AMS2, the whole lap time business with these professionals who are really good at setups is a complete different story. So let's get into AMS2 and see what I'm talking about. So you can see here on the top list, if we go down to me, I should be rough a bit down here. If we go further down, I should be there. I did the quickest lap time without doing a setup. I roughly did not, I just chose like slicks and something. I did a 1:13.177. But if we go back up to the quickest lap times, wait, this person did, okay, 12.7, that's a good time. But if we go up here, you can see Nils, who I believe is Nils Naujoks, or how you want to say his name. He has done a 1:10.575, which shows the huge difference in lap time. You can see here to my time is a 2.6 seconds. It's a huge difference to what is actually in Formula 1. But can we look into the setups and see what the major differences might be? And the answer to that is yes. Okay, so now we are in the sim, and before we look at his setup, let's look at my setup which I'm currently building. Or we can see the setup I'm currently building. So you can see here, I obviously, to get some good setup quick, I use soft slicks, and obviously because I've turned off fuel, I just use one lap of fuel. Then steering lock 20 degrees, brake bias 56, and then you can see here a lot more front downforce than rear downforce, because the rear produces a ton of downforce. And you here have the anti-roll bars there. But if we look into advanced setup, I've tuned the tire pressures a little bit to get them roughly good. I've not through the ducts and the weight bias and everything. Here is where some interesting things are. If you remember the ride height. And then what I've also done is the spring rates, I believe, are the stiffest, yes, at the front and the rear. So, because according to Motec, this is a very flat circuit, so you can use a high spring rates, which is good for you to learn. Then you have the bump stops, the third spring, which I haven't tuned, anti-roll bars, and then the drivetrain you can see here. But if we load up Nils's lap time, which is here, you can see he uses 2 liters, not 1. He has 20 degrees. He uses 54 brake bias, uses a lot more rear downforce than front, and the front and the roll bar is quite a lot stiffer, and the rear too. So if you check his setup, you can see the tire setup, the pressures is not tuned a lot. Ducts, I believe, he has tuned a bit. Brake pressure he has tuned. The weight bias, maybe has tuned. I don't think so. Because, yeah. But here is the interesting part. What was I? I think, I don't remember how high I was. The what's it called, the front, but I believe I was a bit lower than 39. We can actually check just quickly. I should have remembered. If we just use base set here, if we just use check here, I'm using 29 and 39. And then you can, if we go to his setup, you can see here Nils. You can see he's using 39, so 10 millimeters higher than me, and that's what I was using in the rear. And in the rear, he's using 76. So he is having a humongous rake of nearly double the height in the rear than the front. And what we usually see in F1, from what I see, is not these huge difference. I'm not sure, but you can probably, they probably have not released, but this is from what I see. So this is the big thing I would say, the big difference. And is he using the stiffest? No, he's not using the stiffest springs at the front or the rear. He has smaller bump stops, and then he has tuned the bump and damper, obviously, which I'm currently trying to tune. Then he has the cambers, he has done a bit, it seems, and yeah, he has just overall tuned a few things. And then this here you have the coast and power ramps. So the big thing with obviously AMS2 and any other sim is the tune availability, which you can tune a lot of different things which are maybe not fully in real life. And another thing which is also possible in AMS2 and other sims is this with combinations. And what I mean by with combinations is like that in real F1 you want to have tune the car so it's the closest to the ground as possible. Because closer to the ground means more downforce, and that's why you want to have the floor as close as possible to the ground. But it seems like Nils, in the rear at least, doesn't like to do that. So that's an interesting thing you have to think about when saying, is a sim realistic? You can't just obviously look at you have slip and the downforce produced and all of these things. If you look, I believe if you look at my setup and maybe tune it to make it more Verstappen setup, I think it will be quicker. My setup will be quicker because if you look, I have more control over the weather and I have more control over other things, and I don't have the risk of injuring or damaging the car, so I can push 100%, whilst maybe Verstappen isn't pushing 100%, is maybe pushing 95%, so he doesn't make a mistake. So that's the interesting thing when you think about that. All these other sims. But the thing which you might want to check for in a sim to see how realistic it is, you want to also look for loopholes. So like in RF2, the tires really like to slip. AMS2, the tires loved to slip before, but now they don't slip as much. And what I mean is slip angle. With V1.5, you can see in the older F1 cars and the F1 car I was driving that tires don't slip as much. And if they do slip, it's more punishing, which is more realistic apparently. I don't know fully, and it feels a lot better in my opinion. But what do you think? Comment down below. Once you're done, please hit the like button and also subscribe. My next video will be on V1.5 if it has arrived, because Mr. Renato has said that the July dev update, which was supposed to be June update part 2, is going to arrive this week as of uploading this, and the dev and this V1.5 update will officially arrive probably as a release candidate a few days afterwards, We don't know how much that is, but hopefully I will be able to make a video on it. All I'm saying is I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm really looking forward to Rallycross and to see how everything handles. And with V1.5, as I was saying, I'm going to make my video on it. I think my first video might be just on a general about it, and maybe in future I might start a little series reviewing the different cars. So if you have any cars in AMS2 you want me to review, comment it down below. I already have a few ideas. Maybe I'll review a Mercedes DTM car first, but we'll see. But until then, I've been Racing Legend, you've been my amazing friends. Thank you for watching. Good. Bye!